What's happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spear, presented to you by NoleGameday.com. We're here live on a wonderful, fantastic Saturday evening as the Seminoles take care of business and beat the Virginia Tech Hokies 34-14. Kind of a sluggish little bit first half there from the Seminoles, but man, in the second half, it felt like they dominated. And Virginia Tech didn't have much of any momentum in those last two quarters of the game. Florida State putting up 14 points in the third quarter, then 10 points. And we saw a lot of Tommy Castellanos utilizing those legs. Definitely had a first, iffy on air here and there. But as we talked about going into this game, and I had talked about a ton, using Tommy Castellanos with those legs was going to be very big moving forward, I think, throughout the rest of this season. And sure enough, I think that he played well on the ground, and certainly some things to clean up. But shout out to Deuce Robinson, per usual, having a big game on this one as well. But with this instant reaction is Austin Veazey, our lead basketball writer at NoleGameday.com. Veazey, the Seminoles get another ACC win. And once again, it's in Doak, where, Florida State, outside of that Miami game, they play pretty strong. How do you think about how the Seminoles played this evening?
I think that's the best way to put it. Like, hey, they're 5-5. Congrats, you beat Virginia Tech at home. That's what you're supposed to do. Virginia Tech's not a good football team. They fired their head coach 3 games into the year. And this game kind of went how we expected it to, where both teams really established their running games. Virginia Tech ends up with 238 yards on the ground, Florida State with 237. So basically, tit for tat there. And Virginia Tech couldn't get anything going through the air because Kyron Jones just isn't really a passer. And yeah, Tommy Castellanos was inconsistent at times, but he also had a few place balls. But there's definitely a few he'd like to have back. But it's kind of just, hey, we're 5-5. Congratulations, woohoo, yay, kind of thing.
Yeah, Virginia Tech's not an impressive team. I mean, we all knew that coming into the game, and, looking at the score here, 34-14, take care of the spread there as well. So they did that. But like you said, Tommy, whenever he had some of those explosive splash plays on air, a lot of that was to Deuce Robinson, who had 134 yards. He also, too, had almost a close, incredible touchdown grab. One, though, that Tommy actually put a really good ball on him in the left side of the corner of the end zone and, dropped that one, which it came right in both of his hands. And then, of course, like I just said, almost pulled off a really, really nice touchdown there with getting 1 foot down, but just, wasn't able to hold on to possession, but still nonetheless, big time game from your star wide receiver. Outside of that, though, just looking at the stat line, that was about it. You had Jalen Lucas, 13 yards in receiving. You had Samuel Singleton, 16 yards. Rodell Williams
did have a big kick return. We talked about it on Wednesday's show. We had a kicker, 2 good kick returns from Jalen Lucas, really.
Yeah. No, trying to get the return game going a little bit more there. We did see, Jake Weinberg. He's gonna want to have that kickback, of course, because that was a pretty rough miss that he had earlier on in the game. But still, didn't have a lot of Squirrel White in this game as well. And the receiving game for Florida State, it was still fine because you have Deuce Robinson. And he had a night for himself. Now, going over to the rushing, 237 yards on the ground from the Seminoles, led by true freshman Ousmane Kromah with 59 yards, Samuel Singleton 53, and then Tommy Castellanos with 45 yards. I think that's exactly what you would want to have from Tommy Castellanos. You didn't bring him in here to be a passing quarterback. You wanted to utilize those legs, man. And you could tell after that injury that he took against, I believe it was Kent State, after that, it kind of got dinged up a little bit, and the bye week helped a ton. But to me, this was just him just believing in himself a little bit more. I think he was overthinking a few things as well, and he just now is navigating things well. And definitely when he goes off to the outside of his offensive line, he's got great navigation, and he found the end zone a few times in this game as well.
Kromah's impressive. Like, he rarely goes down on first contact, and his balance is really, really good for a true freshman. It's interesting to me that him and Singleton are getting the bulk of the carries, and we talked about it on Wednesday, how Gavin Sawchuk only had 1 carry against Clemson. He only gets 3 here tonight against Virginia Tech. He wasn't the reason Florida State was performing badly. to start the season. He was arguably Florida State's most consistent running back, and now he's kind of just out of the rotation. But when Chroma's dealing like he was, averaging, well over 5 yards per carry, Sam Singleton's just steady. I could see how they got to that result. And then I still don't know how defenses aren't ready for end arounds, because I think Florida State ran 5 of them in this game between Lucas and Danzy.
Yeah, no, they for some reason they are not fully prepared for that. You got to also too give a big shout out over to Randy Pittman as well, who found the end zone. He had a nice night just on the ground. They like to use him in that wildcat, punch it in, really physical player there, and he was able to find the end zone. I thought too, a lot of some big important blocks too on the outside. You could just see him playing well too. But yeah, a lot of guys utilized in this game all across the board. I mean, you actually did see Cam Davis in this game as well. We haven't seen a whole ton of him this year. He's kind of dinged up coming into the season, but Mike Norvell did comment, I believe, on it earlier this week that they're trying to get him going a little bit into the rotation as he continues to heal and get better. Also, too, he was on special teams up there in Death Valley at Clemson. But yeah, this I saw on social media, a lot of the chatter about the running back rotation. What do you think about it? Because that's something Gus Malzahn will continue to do, even if a guy is hot. Let's say Samuel Singleton just broke open, maybe an 8-yard gain. Then you would see, Usman Chroma come in for a third down package. There is a lot of guys being used in the backfield. What are your thoughts on that? Do you want to just stick with one that's the hottest, or are you fine with the rotation?
I'm fine with the rotation to an extent. Seeing 10 different people get carries is a little excessive to me. There shouldn't be, twice as many people running the ball as there's receiving. To me, that's just a little excessive.
Yeah.
If we can limit the rotation to just like 2 or 3, I think that'd be fine. Obviously, like Brock and Glenn's going to carry, and Cam Davis is getting a couple carries in this game. They're not always going to be part of that rotation, but it really shouldn't be more than 2 running backs, in my opinion. And we even saw some Roydell Williams in this game on a reception. He didn't get a carry, but it's just a lot of running backs. And yes, the running back room is very, very talented, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to sometimes get that chemistry. There's a difference between, getting that chemistry and keeping guys fresh. And there's not always, I don't think they've found that right balance so far this year. But it is a talent, like I said, it's a talented group of backs, and I understand wanting all of those guys to get opportunities when they can.
One thing too, VZ, this year that has plagued this offense is putting up a ton of yards. That's for damn sure, but not being able to execute at the end there and putting up points on the scoreboard. And here they went 5 of 7 in the red zone, and I thought they were able to execute there. And I understand Virginia Tech is not a great team, but I do try to find got to give the positives and got to give the props there to them on things that they needed to execute and do better on. And that was one of them, making sure they take care of business whenever they get down there and take advantage of some scoring opportunities. That's something they did tonight. 431 total yards for Florida State's offense in this one. To practically wrap it up, though, where do you think things kind of stand moving forward? Deuce Robinson got a little scary there because he did go out of the game for, I think, a play or two, shoulder, it seemed like. But, of course, he did go back in there as well. Richie Leonard, though, seems to be the more severe injury that we're keeping a close eye on because he did not go in the game. So that one was big, and you can kind of tell there. It took a little while, but Andre Otto stepped in there at the guard position. And then, too, we saw Micah Pettis leave the game. He actually went into the locker room, but ended up coming back into the game, which was really big and huge to have your right tackle for Tommy Castellano. So a little dinged up there on the offensive line a tad bit. But, Florida State got to try to get that momentum that they had of putting points up on the board, which they've not done a great job of on the road like they'll do next weekend or next Friday night against NC State.
Yeah, and before we go that far, they were also helped a decent bit by some mistakes from Virginia Tech. I mean, we have the Kyron Jones interception to start the game where the receiver just falls down, and it's the easiest interception that Jerry Wilson will ever have.
Yeah.
Florida, for the first time ever this season, Florida State runs cover 0, gets the fumble on drones on that sack with Desir and Blake Nicholson. You had them jumping off sides on a field goal that ended up in a touchdown for Florida State. They had a personal foul, I believe, as well, kind of near the red
Yeah, it was
zone.
like a late. Yeah, I thought that was gonna be on Micah Pettis. I was like, oh my goodness
Yeah,
gracious, because Micah Pettis will go and try to finish those plays and go through the whistle, which is great. I love it. I love that kind of mentality from my right tackle. But I thought that was gonna be on
yeah,
Micah.
yeah. So they definitely got some help in this game for Virginia Tech, and you're not going to get that on the road in either of these next 2 games. You're not getting it in Tobacco Road in Carter Finley Stadium, a place that's been a house of horrors for Florida State. And you're definitely not getting it in the swamp against Florida to end the season. It doesn't matter that they fired their coach. You're just not going to get those. So this game doesn't really move the needle, I don't think, for anybody for these last 2 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, going up and trying to, they need to, but to get a win against NC State, it's never an easy place to go play for them. We'll talk a little bit more on that game. I just kind of wanted to wrap up the offensive side of the ball. Too, I wanted to point out, which I noticed, I think in the third or fourth quarter, I was like, wow, this is a pretty clean game from Florida State. And sure enough,
Yeah,
only
it
one
was.
penalty.
Yeah.
Really, really well disciplined game from the Seminoles tonight. 1 penalty, 5 yards. So shout out to them for that on that front. Now going over the defensive side of the ball, I think we got to start off. Of course, Jerry Wilson, he got that interception. That just dropped right into his hand.
He did also have a phenomenal play
Mm-hmm.
on that. I guess it was technically a running back screen because I think the running back motioned out, and he did a great job splitting the blocks and getting to that. And we were hard on him on Wednesday for not tackling. It was a great play.
Yes. It was a nice bounce back game for Jerry Wilson, and I'm sure throughout the week, Mike Norvell was very hands on with him and wanted to see the response. Because he knew it was coming.
Oh God.
The response was delivered from Jerry Wilson in this game. But how about the Desirs mainly? I think Mandrell Desir have a game, man. I mean, popping out that ball too, and then for Florida State to be able to recover. I mean, he was everywhere. He plays with such great pressure, energy, physicality, and this is a true freshman. And I think over the broadcast, some of the announcers were talking about during the meetings, the productions meetings with the coaches, they just kept on talking about these Desir twins. And sure enough, that got to find a way to keep these guys on this team going into 2026 and retain because you have a handful of playmakers offensively, but really definitely defensively with some youngsters, VZ.
Yeah, the Desirs are great, and they're probably Florida State's 2 biggest priorities to keep heading into this offseason going into next year, no matter what happens with coaching changes or whatnot, whether that happens or not. The Desirs got to stay because they're versatile, they're big, they're athletic, and they're just good. And when you look at that rest of that defensive line room, there's really no one else that you go, yeah, they're going to be worth keeping around next year. Because as much as you especially loved Kevin Wynn coming into the year, we just haven't really seen him this year. Obviously, I was dealing with injuries at the start of the season, but recently I can't remember the last time I saw him on the field personally. So you got to keep the Desirs, and hopefully some of these other guys can develop around him. But the Desirs are great. They cause havoc a lot of times. They're in there, and sometimes it just falls in their lap, kind of like it did today with this cover 0, and Drones just runs right into, I think it was Mandrell, right? But he made it a little bit extra by forcing the fumble. So it's just these little extra plays that you get that are great to see from a defensive line that has not had many bright moments this year.
No, 1 sack on the night for Florida State, but like we just said, that's from Mandrell Desir. And here Elijah Herring is going to carry the team here in total tackles with 7, then Earl Little Jr., and then Omar Graham Jr. Comes in that ties there also to with Jerry Wilson and Ashlyn Barker as well. And there was a lot of explosive plays allowed in this game from Florida State's defense. That's a reason why I believe when we're looking at the stat line, they were averaging, more than FSU offensively, about 6.2 yards per play. But they had a lot of explosives that were given up. And two, of course, Drones utilize his legs quite a bit in this one as well. But, it kind of got a little iffy there right off the bat with Virginia Tech, and on the defensive side for Florida State, like, ooh, here we go. It's not a special Virginia Tech team, man. But eventually you could start to see that momentum switch as that third quarter began, and Florida State just put this one, to me, it felt it was night, in that third quarter. It didn't feel like it was going to last long.
I agree. Especially because Virginia Tech's kicker missed that 54-yarder in the first quarter, I believe, and he was well short on it. Like, they come in later, he's got a big leg, career long 58, and that thing was like 8 yards short. Just it's kind of what you expected from Virginia Tech, who just doesn't have a passing attack, and kind of like Florida State, they just don't have an offense that can play from behind. And they got down big and got that garbage time touchdown to cost us our sleeper picks. But it's kind of just what that offense is.
I blame D-Lou for that one because he was texting us saying, what do we need for our picks?
Same.
And then we sent it in, and he was like, I hope we don't have a trash late game.
And then literally 5 minutes later.
Literally, 5 minutes later, touchdown. Just do that. Just do that. So that's on D-Lou right there. That's not on me and VZ. I'm just going to put that
not at all. Not at all.
There. You know what?
And hold on.
Yeah.
Jake Weinberg, would he have hit? I think he would have. Right?
Oh, God.
2 field goals and the extra points.
Let me see. Would he have? Hold on. I'm looking. Special teams. He got 2 field goals.
Yeah. 2 field goals and a few extra points. He would have hit.
Well, we would have had to swap. Who would we have swapped it with?
The receiver was the last one.
Damn, sometimes it's tough. I don't know who said no to that. I don't know who that was, but
y'all hate the good picks. It's crazy.
We have to regroup. We got to regroup. I thought I was onto something though. Whenever he did miss that 1 field goal, but anyways, what was also cool to see was Ethan Pritchard there. Got to see him come down, do the legacy walk into the stadium. The fans were all there around him clapping, and it was just awesome too to see him leave. I think he was in patient care just a few days ago, and he's back in Tallahassee. He was at practice yesterday as well, but to see him out there in the end zone during warm-ups and to be around the huddle and everything, just absolutely awesome. And I think that meant a ton to this team, as you can obviously feel, and I'm sure inside the stadium whenever he was shown on the Jumbotron, got a huge ovation. But awesome to see Ethan Pritchard there, recovering well. Things are going well there on that front, and just an absolute miracle, ladies and gentlemen, and just awesome to see, VZ. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm so happy he's recovering. Even if it's, small steps at a time, it's still steps.
Yes.
And I don't care if he plays a snap. It's just great to see him alive and great to see him smiling and around he's still gonna be teammates with all those guys. It's just awesome to see him out there.
Oh yeah, 100%. Now we'll just a quick note here on NC State, which Florida State is going to go on the road to face next Friday night. They lost to the Miami Hurricanes and got absolutely smoked, 41-7 today. It is always the biggest conversation. Florida State on the road. It's already happened before the season with Virginia on a Friday night. Now here you go again, a classic one going up to NC State. Early look and thoughts onto that one, VZ.
I never expect anything good coming from a road game in Raleigh. It just never goes well in seemingly any sport for Florida State. I've seen one basketball win there. I've seen a bunch of losses, and football just, we talk about 2012 where they just fall apart in that game. You have the Jordan Travis game in 2022 where he throws the pick in the red zone. It's just never been a great spot for Florida State, especially with it being a night game, especially with it being a Friday night game. We talked about Friday night games being wacky in September against Virginia. It's going to be even weirder for this one.
Yeah, this team has not played well on the road this season. They've got to do better there.
That too.
Yeah. Yeah, the current team that is out there right now, not a good team on the road. But like I said, man, I really think Florida State, like they did today, finish your drives with points, execute better, and they were well disciplined in this one. And to me, also too, Tommy Castellanos using those legs. Whenever he does that, things usually do go well. I think he was kind of overthinking some things the last few games, but I think Gus was calling some good stuff for him to get on the outside and be able to those legs are nasty because he runs like a running back. He's got the vision of a running back, and they need to try to predicate this offense around those legs outside of, of course you want to take shots, but a lot of those shots, VZ, have not been really hitting consistently for Tommy, and I know there were some big plays, some splash plays made by Deuce Robinson, but there had been some, though, the last couple of weeks where you're taking some shots with Squirrel White, Mekhi Danzy, and things are off there. But if they can do that, we'll see. And I think, too, it's going to be very important for this defense to play, like they did tonight, and also to get some pressure on the quarterback as per usual. But, it's going to be a pretty interesting game.
they'll need to play better on defense, I think, because Virginia Tech still had almost 400 yards of offense in this game. They just shot themselves in the foot a few times. You're not going to get that benefit of the luck on the road in a hostile environment. You're just not. Especially, it's probably going to be cold on Friday night. It's been a cold week here in North Carolina, and I don't think it's going to get any warmer. So they're going to have to play their A game, and we haven't seen anything better than like a D+ game on the road from them this year.
Now we did see, I might have missed this because we also have UFC going on tonight. It's a busy night. Now Brock Glenn got in there.
At the
when
end,
was that? Was that at the
just
end?
When the game's out of hand, he just got in for the last few snaps.
Okay. Yeah. I know a lot of people are, wanting to see Sperry. They're definitely certainly wanting to keep him.
Shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. They want to try to keep that red shirt for him. So that's the kind of answer if anybody's asking, about Kevin Sperry. Why is it Brock Lane going in? That is most certainly why. And I think practically Mike Norvell alluded to that in the presser there, that he's not going to fully give it away, but that is kind of the idea. Now, if it were to be, I would say, on the road, just depends on the situation. Florida State's in a tight game. I think they still lean over to Kevin Sperry like they did in that Stanford game, but also too they had cushion room for him in a game to be able to do so. That's kind of
and he still has one game left. So if something were to happen in these next two games, and they're like, yeah, we need a quarterback to go win us this game, they'll put Sperry in there because he still has one game, and he could potentially play in the bowl game if they get there. But I just no point in putting him in when you're already up 20 in the last 2 minutes. It's a waste of a game for a true freshman.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think that's going to do it for us on our instant reaction. If you're still here with us on YouTube, we definitely appreciate it if you smack that like button down below. Florida State just won, so getting this out to more FSU fans, it helps us, gets you guys in the comments more and such. We'll be live again on Monday afternoon recapping Mike Norvell's presser, and then we'll be live Wednesday to get you guys prepared for an earlier game in the week on Friday night between Florida State and NC State. On the road up there. Always going to be interesting for this preview because we got to add in the factor of it being on the road at NC State, which is
on a Friday night.
Yeah, on a Friday night. Just not great. Not kind of the situation you want to be in as a Florida State fan, but this team could prove us all wrong. It would be great to see that and get their first road win of the season. But y'all enjoy the rest of y'all's weekend. Enjoy NFL Sunday tomorrow, and we'll talk to you guys on Monday afternoon at 12:30. Peace.